Have you ever wondered how a simple idea makes it through this, crazy political maze to become a law that affects millions of people? Well, today we're going to follow that exact journey. It is a challenging, complex, and honestly a super important odyssey, and we're going to break down every single step. Let's dive in.
Okay, so right off the bat, let's just ask the big question. Why is this process so incredibly difficult? I mean, it can feel like a total bureaucratic nightmare, right? But here's the wild part. That difficulty, it isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. The whole thing was designed to be this hard on purpose.
And it all comes down to this one core idea. The founders were terrified of an abuse of power, so they intentionally built a system that forces debate, that forces compromise, and just really careful thought. It's a system that absolutely values deliberation over speed. So with that in mind, let's see how this thing actually plays out. All right, so let's start at square one. Our journey begins with just an idea. Before a bill is even a bill, it's nothing more than a concept, right? A solution to a problem, maybe a vision for the future. But where do these ideas even come from?
The answer is pretty much anywhere. An idea for a new law can start with you, with ordinary citizens, with social groups, corporate lobbyists, even the president. It's truly the most democratic part of this whole process. But look, having a great idea is one thing. Getting it into the system, that's a whole other challenge.
And here is the absolute key, the constitutional rule. No matter who dreams up the idea, only a sitting member of Congress, a representative or a senator, can officially introduce it. The person who introduces it is called the sponsor, and any others who sign on to support it are called co-sponsors.
And what's kind of cool is how different the traditions are in the two chambers. So in the House of Representatives, a member literally just drops a copy of the bill into a wooden box called the hopper. It's that simple. But over in the Senate, it's much more formal. A senator has to actually get up on the Senate floor and publicly announce that they're introducing their bill.
Okay, so once it's introduced, our bill faces its first, and you could argue its most difficult test, the committee system. I always think of this as a kind of legislative gauntlet where only the strongest, most supported bills have any chance of making it out alive. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, historically, something like 90% of all bills die right here, in committee. Each bill gets assigned to a committee based on what it's about, agriculture, finance, whatever. And this is where the real work begins, and for most bills, it's also where it ends.
So for a bill that's actually being taken seriously, it has to get through three main trials. First, there's a public hearing, where experts and regular citizens come in to testify. Second is what's called a markup session. This is where committee members debate every single line and can propose changes or amendments. And finally, there's a vote. If it passes a subcommittee, it goes to the full committee for yet another vote.
But what happens if the committee chair doesn't even want to deal with the bill? Well, that's where this term comes in, pigeonholing. The committee just does nothing. No hearings, no vote, nothing. The bill just quietly dies from neglect. It's one of the most common ways a bill meets its end.
But let's pretend our bill is one of the lucky few. It actually survived the committee gauntlet, and now it's headed for a full debate on the floor of the House or the Senate. And this is where things get really interesting, because the rules of the game are completely different in each chamber.
The big difference really boils down to this: structure versus tradition. The House has 435 members, so it has to be super structured. They have a powerful rules committee that sets strict time limits on every debate. The Senate, on the other hand, treasures its tradition of unlimited debate. That means any senator can talk for as long as they want, and that unique tradition leads to a very famous political move: the filibuster. This is a tactic you only see in the Senate, where a senator, or maybe a group of senators, can block a vote on a bill just by talking and talking and talking. The whole point is to either run out the clock and kill the bill, or to force the majority party to make a compromise. So how do you stop a filibuster? With this number, 60. You need 60 out of 100 senators to vote for something called cloture. That's just the fancy word for ending the debate and forcing a final vote. In today's really divided Senate, getting to that magic number of 60 is the key to passing almost any major law. Okay, so our bill miraculously passed the committee, it survived the floor debate, it overcame a filibuster, and it passed one chamber of Congress. We're done, right? Ha, not even close. Now it has to go do the entire thing all over again in the other chamber. And there's a huge catch. You see, for a bill to become law, both the House and the Senate have to pass the exact same word-for-word version. If there's even one comma different between the two,
A special conference committee is formed. They bring in members from both chambers, and their job is to negotiate and hammer out one single unified bill. That compromise then goes back to both the House and Senate for a final vote. No more amendments, just a simple yes or no.
If it passes that vote, our bill finally lands on the president's desk to face its final boss. The president has 4 options. 1, sign it, and it becomes law. Easy. 2, veto it. This rejects the bill and sends it all the way back to Congress. 3, do nothing. If Congress is in session, the bill automatically becomes law after 10 days. And then there's the 4th, kind of tricky one, the pocket veto. If Congress goes home for a break within those 10 days and the president hasn't signed it, the bill just dies.
We have made it through the entire obstacle course. It is long, it's complicated, and it's just filled with trapdoors where a bill can fail. So let's zoom out and ask again. Why? What is the whole point of this intentionally difficult process?
Well, it all comes back to the core functions of our government. This whole tough process is what ensures checks and balances, right? It prevents any one group from getting too much power. It's the engine that creates public policy, from how we spend our tax dollars to passing huge social changes like the Civil Rights Act. It provides economic stability, and maybe most importantly, it upholds the rule of law that our entire society is built.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. This whole system we've just walked through is built on a trade-off. It chooses slow, careful deliberation over speed and efficiency. And in our super fast-paced modern world, is that still the right balance to strike? It's a question we're thinking about. Thanks for tuning in.